van crashes into church before opening fire on civilians. Russia launches drones, missiles into Kiev. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Sahih. A man crashed his vehicle through the front doors of a Mormon church in Michigan, opened fire with an assault rifle and set the church ablaze, killing at least 4 people and wounding at least 8 others before dying in a shootout with police. Police say the perpetrator, identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, a former U.S. Marine from the nearby town of Burton, deliberately set fire to the church, which was engulfed in flames and billowing smoke. They said hundreds of people were inside the facility when Sanford drove into the building. They added 2 officers, one from the State Department of Natural Resources and another from Grand Blanc Township, rushed to the scene and engaged the suspect in an exchange of gunfire, shooting him dead in the parking lot about 8 minutes after the incident began. They also said investigators will search the shooter's home and phone records in search of a motive. The United States, where firearms are readily available, has a long history of gun violence. But tensions have soared in recent weeks after a series of high-profile attacks, including the assassination of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk in Utah and a deadly shooting at a federal immigration enforcement facility in Texas. Tropical storm Buloy has lashed central Vietnamese provinces, causing flooding, landslides and airport closures after killing 11 people in the Philippines, quoting state media on Sunday. The storm, fueled by warm seas and moving unusually fast, made landfall in central Vietnam on Sunday evening, earlier than previously predicted. Packing maximum wind speeds of up to more than 130 km per hour, the storm struck the coast just north of Vinh City in Yên An province. The outer bands of the storm, however, had already been causing flooding in central regions, with floods reported in the coastal city of Da Nang on Saturday. Local authorities banned vessels from going to sea before noon on Saturday. Nearly 68,000 vessels were guided into safe harbours. More than 240,000 soldiers, meanwhile, are on standby, ready to react in the worst heat areas. Central provinces, including Tiang Hoa, Eng Hee An, Quang Tri, have already been hit by torrential rain, isolating dozens of villages and causing flooding and numerous landslides in the region. 4 airports, including Da Nang International Airport, have halted flights on Sunday and Monday, with heavy rains forecast across northern and central provinces until Tuesday. US President Donald Trump hopes to finalize a Gaza peace plan proposal in meeting with Israel's leader Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces increasing isolation abroad and mounting pressure at home as Israeli tanks push deeper into Gaza City. The meeting comes days after Trump unveiled a 21-point plan aimed at ending the war during discussion with Arab and Muslim leaders on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Trump said he had received a very good response from Israel and Arab leaders to the Gaza peace plan proposal, and everybody wants to make a deal. Hamas, however, said the group had not yet received any proposal from Trump or the mediators. Trump's 21-point plan envisions a permanent ceasefire, the release of hostages, an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and a major influx of humanitarian aid. On the ground, Gaza residents and medics said Israeli tanks pushed deeper into Sabra, Tel Ahwa and nearby Sheikh Radwan and Al Nasir neighborhoods, closing in on the heart of the city and western areas where hundreds of thousands of people are sheltering. The Gaza Health Ministry said at least 77 people were killed by Israeli fire yesterday. Local health authorities said they had been unable to respond to dozens of desperate calls from trapped residents. Israel's international isolation has deepened in recent days, with countries including the UK, France, Canada and Australia officially recognizing Palestinian statehood. The Arab League has urged the United Nations to enforce the resolutions for international legitimacy so as to bring the war in the Gaza Strip to a close. Assistant Secretary General and Head of the Media and Communications Sector of the Arab League, Ambassador Ahmed Rashid Kharabi, said the Palestinian cause puts the United Nations to a tough test regarding the urgency of enforcing the resolutions of international legitimacy. He added this includes backing the established directives and initiatives to end the war in Gaza and curbing settlement breaches in the West Bank. Katabi stressed the importance of lending impetus to the path towards an enduring solution of the legitimate Palestinian cause based on a two-state solution which received compelling global support, enabling the Palestinians to live in dignity within an interconnected state that enjoys freedom, sovereignty and independence. He further noted that living elements have been destroyed in Gaza as medical, educational and media facilities have been targeted, coupled with acts of violence, killing, intimidation, as well as mass exodus to the forced displacement of thousands of Palestinians to unknown places in an image of major demeaning setback. Yemen's armed forces have launched a fresh missile strike against the Israeli regime as part of efforts to stop the ongoing genocide of Gazans. The Israeli army claimed it intercepted one missile, but video footage broadcast on Yemeni and Palestinian media appears to show the missile warhead splitting into several sub-warheads as it entered the skies over the occupied Palestinian territories. Israeli media confirmed that air raid sirens sounded across more than 200 locations, including Tel Aviv, Al-Quds and settlements deep inside the occupied West Bank, forcing millions of settlers to rush into shelters. There were no comments from Yemeni officials. Yemeni officials have conducted hundreds of such missile and drone operations so far as a direct message to the Israeli regime, saying they will continue their missile and drone strikes until the war on Gaza ends and the siege is lifted. They stressed that this action is part of a wider campaign to support the Palestinian people who have endured weeks of relentless bombardment that has killed thousands, including women and children. On 24 September, Yemen's forces launched a drone attack on the city of al-Rashrash, which wounded at least 22 settlers, 2 of them seriously. Russia launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Kiev and other parts of Ukraine, killing at least 4 people and injuring dozens in one of the most sustained attacks on the capital since the full-scale war began. Ukraine's military said Russia launched 595 drones and 48 missiles overnight, and its air defenses shot down 568 drones and 43 missiles. It noted that the main target of the strikes was the capital, Kiev. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the attack, which lasted more than 12 hours, killed at least 4 people, including a child, with 2 of death occurring at a Kiev cardiology clinic. He said 80 people were injured in the strikes and factories, residential buildings and energy-generating sites were damaged. Neighbouring Poland closed its airspace near to 2 southeastern cities and its Air Force scrambled jets in response until the danger had passed. Zelensky again urged the international community to act decisively to cut off Russia's energy revenues that fund its invasion. He said it is important that further sanctions on Russia to be adopted by Europe targets Russia's energy resources, particularly its tanker fleet. Ukraine has so far failed to convince US President Donald Trump to impose punitive sanctions on Moscow. Denmark has decided to ban all civilian drone flight across the country over the coming days to ensure security as Copenhagen hosts an EU summit gathering heads of government. Copenhagen is set to host an EU summit on Wednesday and Thursday. Transport Minister Thomas Danielsen said in a statement that Denmark will give extra focus on security and therefore will close the Danish airspace to all civilian drone flights. In this way, he said Denmark removed the risk that enemy drones can be confused with legal drones and vice versa. He noted that a violation of the ban can result in a fine or imprisonment for up to 2 years. Justice Minister Peter Hammelgaard said in the same statement the purpose of the ban is to simplify the work of police and other authorities. The police are on heightened alert and the authorities must use their forces when necessary to take care of Danes and the guests. He said the ban would mean police would not have to spend their efforts on civilian drones that do not pose a problem to security and police. Mysterious drone sightings across Denmark since 22nd September have prompted the closure of several airports, with Denmark hinting at possible Russian involvement, though Moscow denies the charge. Iran has condemned the reinstatement of United Nations sanctions over its nuclear program as unjustifiable after the collapse of talks with Western powers and Israeli and US strikes on its nuclear sites. The measures took effect overnight after Western powers triggered the so-called snapback mechanism under the 2015 nuclear accord. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said the reactivation of annulled resolutions is legally baseless and unjustifiable, stressing that all countries must refrain from recognizing the illegal situation. It added the Islamic Republic of Iran will firmly defend its national rights and interests, and any action aimed at undermining the rights and interests of its people will face a firm and appropriate response. The return of the sanction ends months of tense of diplomacy aimed at reviving nuclear talks derailed since June, when Israeli and US forces bombed Iranian nuclear facilities. Despite the reimposition, Western leaders stressed that channels for dialogue remain open. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran has always declared its readiness for a logical, fair and just dialogue based on clear criteria, but it will never accept a negotiation that causes new problems and issues. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has pledged a significant improvement in the security of government administrative system following a major fire at the National Information Resources Service in Daejeon that disrupted online services across the country. The fire broke out on Friday and was extinguished on Saturday.
이번 화재가 국가 행정망 안전성을 획기적으로 높이는 전화회복의 계기가 되도록 근원적인 중장기 해결 방안을 조속하게 마련해야 되겠습니다. 필요한 예산과 인력의 확충 역시 신속하게 추진해야 되겠습니다.
The data centers serve as a cloud server for numerous government services and databases. It also operates additional data centers in other locations. The fire was suspected to have started with an explosion of a lithium-ion battery produced by LG Energy Solution during maintenance, damaging some servers and forcing the shutdown of hundreds more. According to the Safety Ministry, organizations affected by the fire include Korea Customs, the National Police Agency and the National Fire Agency. It further noted that 46 government services have been restored. Authorities said another 96 systems affected by the fire would be harder to restart without giving a timetable for full restoration. Coming up, French airliner trial begins anew after 16 years. New York City Mayor Eric Adams dropped his re-election bid on Sunday, leaving the race to become the city's next mayor, likely between Democrat Zohran Madani and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Adams have been trailing far behind Madani and Cuomo, who is running as an independent, according to public opinion polls, with Madani holding a sizable lead ahead of the 4th November election. Adams have been struggling to raise money. Federal criminal charges were dropped against Adams earlier this year, prompting resignations at the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office and at the Justice Department in protest against alleged political interference by Trump administration.
Despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the Campaign Finance Board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope that over time, New Yorkers will see this city thrive under our leadership, and that policies we put in place should be continued and expanded.
Adams said he will finish his term, which ends on 1st January 2026. The former New York City police officer has had a brutally unpopular tenure as the leader of America's largest city, which is heavily Democratic. Rumors have swirled for weeks that Adams would drop out of the mayoral race to allow space for Cuomo. There were also reports the Trump administration was considering a job for Adams if he backed out of the election.
It doesn't matter what.
State authorities in Oregon have sued to halt the deployment of U.S. troops to the northwestern city of Portland a day after President Donald Trump ordered the move. The deployment would follow similar moves by the Republican president to mobilize troops against the wishes of local Democratic leadership in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. Trump said the deployments are necessary to crack down on crime and protest against his contentious contentious and wide-ranging mass deportation drive. The suit filed by Oregon and Portland authorities accused Trump of overreach, saying the move was motivated by his desire to normalize the use of military troops for ordinary domestic law enforcement activity, particularly in jurisdictions run by his political opponents. In its suit, Oregon authorities said there was no need for a National Guard deployment to Portland, as contrary to Trump's claim, the protests there against immigration and custom enforcement have been small-scale and peaceful. The suit said the protests typically involve less than 30 people and have not required arrest since mid-June. But it said Trump's heavy-handed deployment of troops threatens to escalate tensions and stoke new unrest. A French appeals court will begin a new trial on Monday on Air France, 16 years after a jetliner plunged into the Atlantic, killing all 228 people on board. A lower French court cleared both Air France and Airbus of corporate manslaughter in 2023, following a historic public trial over the disappearance of flight AF447 while en route from Rio de Janeiro to Paris on 1st June 2009. After a 2-year search for the A330 black boxes, French investigators found pilot had mishandled the temporary loss of data from ISAP speed sensors and pushed the jet into an aerodynamic stall or free fall without responding to alerts. But a trial more than a decade later also shed light on discussions between Air France and Airbus about growing problems with the sensors of pitted probes that generate speed readings. Following 9 weeks of evidence, a Paris judge listed 4 acts of negligence by Airbus and 1 by Air France, but found these were not enough under French criminal law to establish a definitive link to the loss of the jet during a midnight storm. Prosecutors appealed the verdict and called for a new 2-month trial that is expected to involve a full-scale airing of evidence rather than limiting itself to purely legal matters. Chief Executive of Airbus and Air France are expected to make statements during the opening hearing, which starts at 1:30 p.m. local time on Monday. Police in India registered a criminal case against leaders of Tamil actor Vijay's political party after a stampede at his rally killed 39 people. The dead included children and more than 50 people were injured in Saturday's stampede in the southern state of Tamil Nadu, where Vijay was campaigning for his Tamilaga Victory Kasagam party ahead of state elections early next year. Tamil Nadu police filed the case, the first step towards potential charges against party senior leaders Basianan, Nimal Kumar and VP Matiyalagan. A senior police official said the party originally sought permission for a gathering of 10,000 people, but the actual crowd was more than double. Vijay, one of Tamil cinema's most bankable actors for 3 decades, has drawn massive crowds since launching his party last year. He said he was heartbroken by the stampede in the Karur district, pledging support for the victim's family. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin announced compensation of 1 million rupees per family. The state has appointed a commission led by a retired judge to investigate the cause of the stampede. Huge flame of smoke was seen from a regional emergency services airplane flying over Penalba de la Sierra wildfire in central Spain. The regional government escalated the wildfire to a level 2 emergency, evacuating 2 towns and requesting assistance from the military emergency unit as flames ravaged an estimated 2,800 hectares. Restrictions on visitor access to Haído de Tejera Negra remain in place, and authorities have recommended avoiding travel near the Sierra Norte National Park to facilitate firefighting efforts. Firefighting resources deployed to combat the blaze include 12 aerial units, 25 ground units and 182 personnel. According to officials, a team of firefighters had to be evacuated by helicopter last Thursday after sudden changes in wind direction intensified the fire. However, local authorities continue to coordinate efforts with specialized units to contain the fire amid challenging terrain and unfavorable weather conditions. The world's tallest bridge opened to traffic Sunday morning in southwest China's Guangzhou province, slashing travel time across a deep canyon from 2 hours to just 2 minutes after 3 years of construction. The Huajiang Grand Canyon Bridge, soaring 625 meters above the Bipan River in Guangzhou mountainous terrain, is nearly 9 times as tall as San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. With a main span of 1,420 meters, the project has become the world's longest span steel truss girder suspension bridge in mountainous terrain. Spanning the Huijiang Grand Canyon, dubbed the Earth's Crack, the 2,890-meter-long structure is the latest addition to the rapidly expanding infrastructure network of the world's second-largest economy. The bridge has achieved multiple technological breakthroughs in its wind-resistant design and high-altitude bridge construction, obtaining 21 authorized patents. Several of its technological innovations have been incorporated into national bridge construction standards. Over the years, Guizhou, one of China's least developed provinces, has constructed over 30,000 bridges in its mountainous terrain, including 3 of the world's tallest. Still to come in sports, Laurent Blanc sacked as Al Ittihad coach. Saudi side Al Ittihad sacked manager Laurent Blanc on Sunday in the wake of a 2-0 defeat to Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr. Al Ittihad announced on social media Blanc's assistant Hassan Khalifa will take over as a caretaker coach until further notice, with the club third in the Saudi Pro League, 3 points behind Al Nassr after 4 games. Blanc, 59, joined Al Ittihad in 2024 after a low-key spell, coaching Ligue 1 Lyon. A standout centre-back in his playing days at clubs including Marseille, Inter Milan and Manchester United, he was part of France's 1998 World Cup winning team on home soil but missed the final after being sent off in the semi-final against Croatia. He returned to manage France in 2010, leading them to the quarter-finals at Euro 2012, after which he was replaced by Didier Deschamps. Despite guiding Paris Saint-Germain to 3 Ligue 1 titles between 2014 and 16, his failure to make an impact in the Champions League led to his departure in 2016. In tennis, Alexander Zverev beat racket snapper Corentin Moutet to book a quarter-final date with Daniil Medvedev at the China Open on Sunday. The world number 3 from Germany kept his calm to edge out the Frenchman 7-5, 3-6, 6-3 and set up a 21st tour meeting with his Russian rival. Moutet, competing at a career-high world number 37, lured Zverev in with his trademark variety and unpredictability before landing 40 winners across their 2-hour, 38-minute battle. However, Zverev fought back with a determined final set display, during which he won 6 of the next 8 games to keep his title hopes alive. Zverev held on in the first set to get the better of an angry Moutet, whose racket met its end against the 26-year-old leg. The world number 37 won set 2, producing several drop shots to keep Zverev on the run, but it was the German who cleaned up shop in the decider. Zverev's upcoming opponent, Medvedev's 2025 campaign, has been anything but smooth, yet if there is a stage where his fortunes might shift, it could well be the China Open. Though Medvedev stands with a modest 29-19 record this year by his lofty standards, the 2023 finalist remains focused on rediscovering the edge that once carried him to number 1 in the ATP rankings. In the women's draw, it took defending champion Coco Gauff 2 hours and 45 minutes to advance to the next round of the China Open on Sunday, beating Leylah Fernandez 6-4, 4-6, 7-5. In a game littered with long rallies, Gauff came out on top despite a wobble in the second set. Gauff looked in control in the first set, but the gritty Fernandez hit back in the second to force a decider. The 25th ranked Canadian survived a match point to level at 5-5, but Gauff finally clinched the 2-hour 45-minute marathon when Fernandez netted. Gauff had not dropped a set to Fernandez in 2 previous professional encounters, both on hard courts and 1 junior meeting. Those matches had been characterized by the Canadians' inability to maintain the offensive level needed to hit through Gauff for an entire set. The world number 3 next placed Switzerland's Belinda Bencic for a place in the quarterfinals. Bencic earlier won in the third round after the number 15 seed came from a set and 3-1 down to defeat qualifier Priscilla Hon 4-6, 6-4, 6-3. Gauff leads their head-to-head 3-2, including 2-1 in 2025. Francesco Bagnaia led from start to finish to win the Japanese Grand Prix on Sunday ahead of Ducati teammate Marc Marquez, who clinched his 7th MotoGP championship. Pole sitter and Saturday's sprint winner Bagnaia had a strong start, and 2 laps later, he was more than a second clear of KTM's Pedro Acosta, while Marquez slotted in behind his Spanish compatriot in 3rd place. By lap 7, Benaia was comfortably in control in the lead, but Marquez seemed to be struggling to match Acosta's pace, giving Mir the opportunity to close in and challenge him from the third place. Marquez eventually found a way past Acosta when he tucked into his slipstream and overtook him on lap 11, but he was staring at a gap of 4 seconds to his teammate Benaia, who surged away to his second victory of the season. After the race, Marquez successfully gave himself an unassailable lead in the championship standings with 5 races to go as he secured his first title since 2019. After he claims his 7th championship victory, he will have moved level to MotoGP legend Valentino Rossi's record. Marquez has 11 wins this season and stretched his championship lead to 201 points over his brother in second place. Tadej Pogačar led up Kigali's climb with a trademark long-range attack to claim a second consecutive men's road race world title on Sunday, an air of inevitability surrounding the event as the Slovenian cemented his legacy among cycling all-time greats. He triumphed as the championship was staged in Africa for the first time, with hundreds of thousands cheering from the roadside. Pogačar, whose grimace turned into a smile in the final lap, is the third rider in the last 2 decades to retain the rainbow jersey after Slovakia's Peter Sagan, who won 3 in a row from 2015 to 2017, and Julian Alaphilippe of France from 2020 to 2021. The victory capped a glittering 2025 season for Pogačar. The 27-year-old claimed a 4th Tour de France crown in July, dominating Jonas Vingegaard and added Sprint Classics triumph at Stade-Viange, the Tour of Flanders, La Flèche Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. With 2 Monument titles already this year, Pogačar further cemented his versatility across one-day and stage races. Another Monument one-day race awaits when he lines up at the Giro di Lombardia next month.
My Card bukan sekadar kad pengenalan, tetapi medium utama yang menghubungkan rakyat dengan pelbagai perkhidmatan kerajaan dan swasta. Banyak insentif kerajaan disalurkan melalui My Card, daripada bantuan kebajikan, kemudahan kesihatan hinggalah pelbagai program rakyat. Inilah keistimewaan yang dimiliki oleh setiap warga negara Malaysia. Sila periksa keadaan My Card anda. Sekiranya chip rosak, hilang atau My Card sudah uzur, segera lakukan penggantian di Jabatan Pendaftaran Negara agar hak dan kemudahan anda sentiasa terjamin. Inilah komitmen Madani dengan dokumen identiti yang sah, moden dan diyakini. Rakyat disantuni sebaiknya. My Card, identiti anda, kebanggaan negara.
That wraps up World Today this time around. In our top story, man crashes into church before opening fire on civilians. For business news updates, do join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 or saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Sahih Samsudin, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Thank you for watching.